Dear participants, distinguished delegates, it is my great honor to have the opportunity to deliver this opening address on this important occasion to mark the 125th birth anniversary of Dr. Ambedkar. The influence and legacy of Dr. Ambedkar has not only shaped the course of the world's largest democracy, India, but left a profound mark in the lives and mindset of all those working towards equality across the world. Dr. Ambedkar's extensive work as a politician, being regarded as one of the fathers of the Indian Constitution, as well as a renowned intellectual and scholar, reveals a self-cultivated person committed to the universal cause of justice and dignity. He was a human rights champion for millions of people who were, and who still are today, deprived of their basic civil, political, economic, social, or cultural rights. He has inspired generations to join efforts to pursue social justice. Much remains to be done in order to fulfill Dr. Ambedkar's aspiration for a free and equalitarian society. Upholding basic human rights for all is a challenging path which involves all of us, from international organizations such as the United Nations to governments and ordinary citizens in their everyday life. We all have something to contribute to the noble cause of making this world more just. When the United Nations was to be established, Dr. Ambedkar had faith that the new organization would be the ideal forum for marginalized communities to speak up and fight inequalities. In a letter sent to Du Bois, the famous American sociologist and activist, Dr. Ambedkar identified himself as a member of the untouchables of India and expressed his interest in the petition that the National Association for the Investment of Colored People, the NAACP, had submitted to the United Nations, denouncing the discrimination of African Americans in the US. Dr. Ambedkar noted in that letter that his group was thinking of following suit. Let us remember today that in the preamble of the UN Charter, the peoples of the United Nations reaffirmed faith in fundamental human rights, in the dignity and worth of the human person, in the equal rights of men and women and of all nations, large and small, and committed themselves to promote social progress and better standards of life in larger freedom. Indeed, since its inception, the United Nations has been called to play a leading role in the pursuit of those goals. As the United Nations Special Rapporteur on minority issues, I receive lots of information regarding violations of the rights of minority groups, including incidents of discrimination and violence committed against individuals ascribed to the lowest caste strata. Since the minority issues mandate was established, caste-affected groups, including Dalits, have sought the support of the mandate, attended the sessions of the Forum on Minority Issues, and shared valuable information with respect to their situation. As my predecessor did during her tenure, I have addressed the continued plight of caste-affected people, including through my last thematic report to the Human Rights Council, which I presented last month. In my report, I discuss concerns about right to life and physical integrity, access to justice and policing, political participation, contemporary forms of slavery, right to health, water, work, and sanitation, among others. I dedicated a specific section to the multiple and intersecting forms of discrimination against caste-affected women, including the worryingly high level of caste-based violence, and particularly sexual violence committed against them. In his famous speech, The Annihilation of Caste, Dr. Ambedkar harshly criticizes the dichotomy between inferior and superior status of individuals on the grounds of the caste they were born in, and notes that his ideal society would be based on liberty, equality, and fraternity. I share Dr. Ambedkar's view that this differentiation between categories of individuals infringes upon the basic principles of universal human dignity and equality, and leads to extreme exclusion and dehumanization of caste-affected communities, who to this day are often among the most disadvantaged populations. On this special day, we should also remember the numerous positive steps that have been taken in this regard. Constitutions have been amended, specific legislation and affirmative actions have been adopted, and special commissions have been established, and movements were formed to advance the rights of all those who have been historically marginalized and discriminated. Let us hope that such positive practices will continue and that the United Nations 2030 Agenda and its set of Sustainable Development Goals will indeed provide us a new platform for action and fulfill the promise to leave no one behind. I urge all states to have targeted attention to the situation of the poorest and most socially and economically excluded and marginalized communities to break the vicious cycle of discrimination, poverty, inequalities, and injustice. Dr. Ambedkar said that indifferentism is the worst kind of disease that can infect people. So for indifference not to prevail, we all must reaffirm our commitment today. We must request from our public officials to condemn violence when it happens, to demonstrate that it is intolerable in our societies, and we must not rest until the perpetrators are brought to justice. We must fight extremism, especially in social media today, to let those believing in their superiority realize that we stand our ground for equality and will not be scared away. And we must continue teaching our children from early age that our aspirations are all the same. We all want to be free and happy, and our merits and hard work are not our origin shall define our successes in life. Political tyranny is nothing compared to social tyranny, and the reformer who defies society is a more courageous man than a politician who defies government, said Dr. Ambedkar. I wish all of us today continued strength to better serve society and honor with our example Dr. Ambedkar's legacy. I thank you for your attention and wish you all a successful event.